Okay, okay, fine. Thank you guys. Mr. Gideon, you can go ahead.
Okay. So
Thank you.
man, it's so nice seeing you guys. So today, I don't know, have you guys done anything on Cairo, Starknet? I think that's what we're supposed to do today, right? If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so have you done anything like at all? Or this is the first time? So that we'll know where to start.
Yes,
Hmm.
I think we did the introduction,
Okay.
and I think we went through some of the syntax, but though that day he had no time to take us on the installation, but we kind of know the syntax, or we are aware of the syntax of running a file for Cairo. Yeah, but we've not
Oh,
done installation, but some of us we went through the documentation still.
okay. So like how many people have installed so that we'll just go straight to the point instead of waiting? Why is everywhere quiet now? So should we go, although the installation is, if you follow the Cairo book, is quite straightforward. So I don't know if it's something that you still want us to go over, or we can just go ahead and then just go through the Cairo, the basics and all of that for today. Hmm? Okay, Jethro, go on.
Yes, I think we'll just go through the book and then do the installations. That day, I think Manu even reiterated more on the installation. So it's something I
Oh,
think. So let's
okay.
just okay.
All right. So if that's the case, so let's just go straight to the point. All right. So I'm going to share my screen now, and then just like I always say, if there is any place probably in the course where we are I'm explaining something and you don't understand, you can always let me know, right? Instead of allowing me to go far first. So should I share on my screen or should I share? Okay, so let's have it this way. So I don't know if you are seeing my screen. Okay, I believe you are seeing my screen. So okay, so today we'll just be looking at the simple syntax. That's the syntax of Cairo. Because okay, Cairo, I believe you've known about Starknet already. Starknet is a layer 2 that was built to scale Ethereum. And I think recently they have started doing some works to also scale Bitcoin as well. All right. So, and just like every blockchain that has a particular programming language you use in writing the smart contract, so also Starknet has a language called Cairo. So, is that language used to write smart contracts on Starknet that runs on the Starknet virtual machine, right? Just as how you have Solidity, which is a language that is used to write smart contracts that is used to run on the EVM, you know, the EVM now, the Ethereum virtual machine. So also the Cairo is a language that is used to write smart contract that runs on the Starknet VM. All right. So I think they call it, is it they call it Cairo VM or Starknet? It should be Starknet VM now. Yeah, Starknet VM. So is my screen, the size of my screen, like, is it okay? If it's not, I can increase it. All right. So let's get started. So now let's move to the next one. So the first thing we'll be looking at here is variables and mutability. Now, why one beautiful thing about these classes, I believe we are going to move very fast, not very fast in such a way that we won't understand, but very fast because we've done Rust already. And Cairo is like a branch off of Rust. So what it means by a branch off of Rust is that essentially a lot of things you see in Cairo is just how it is in Rust. And I believe we have done Rust before. All right. So now, of course, we all know what variable and mutability is. We talk about mutability. We talked about variable. So variable is just something that holds a value, right? Anything that holds a value is called a variable. Yeah. And then mutability simply means something that can be changed. When they say it's immutable, it cannot be changed. When they say mutable, it can be changed. Something that can be changed. So I don't know. Does anybody have like any contrary definition or something he wants to add before we move on? Okay. So nobody coming. I think I need to. Ah, uh-huh. Uh, detect. Uh, all right. So I believe that we all know. Let me open my code editor here. So I believe you guys. This guy must have taught you people how to. This Maoga must have taught you guys how to create new projects on. That's if you want to write a Cairo smart contract, right? Just like how if you want to write a ROS program, you use Cairo to create a new project, right? Also, if you want to create a smart contract, you want to start writing a contract in Starknet using Cairo, there's a command you also use. So just like how you have Cargo as a package manager on Rust, right? Yeah, let me increase it. Cargo as a package manager on Rust. You also have on Starknet, you also have a package manager called Scarb, right? And I believe that some of you must have installed it already, or later you can go back to the documentation and find a way to install it. So Scarb is actually the packet manager of Cairo. And so now what we want to do is to just create a new project, right? A new Cairo program that we can actually run, right? So that's what we want to do now. So what we are going to do here is to run the command scarb. I think it's scarb init, or is it scarb new? Let me try scarb new. So scarb new, name of the project. Okay, let's just say introduction. Yeah, intro. So now it's going to ask you, this is Scarb new intro. When I run this, just like how Cairo too, you do cargo too, you do cargo new, then the name of the this thing. So you see, I say Scarb new intro, and you see what is asking me, that is this Starknet Foundry, which is the default, or Cairo test. So if Adim being what we want to write is a smart contract, we are going to choose this first one. But now what we want to do is first to understand how to work with Cairo, how to write Cairo, before now coming back to look at how to write smart contracts. You understand? Because you have to even understand Cairo as a language itself before you now start looking at how to use it to write smart contracts on Starknet. All right. So as a result of that, we'll choose the second one. Yes. So I'll proceed. Now you can see that it has created a Cairo project. We know we named it in intro. So if you remember, just like how cargo too, if you do cargo new, it will create a SRC folder. Then inside it will create a main folder, and then it will create your cargo.toml. So for Scarb, it will create SRC folder, it will create live.cairo, and then it will also go ahead and create your scarb.toml, right? So everything you know in Rust is the same thing that is applicable here. You know, under your dependency or dev dependency, you can have, what are they calling it? You can have dependencies like libraries and every other thing that you want to make use of. You can put them there. So this one too is similar to what you have in Rust. So I will not explain it much. Yeah. So why this git ignore, of course, why they put it there is because, you know, there are some files that when you are pushing to Git repository, it's not necessary for it to be there. For example, the target file. Yeah, it's not necessary. Then you have this your lib.cairo file. So this is where we'll be experimenting with anything we are doing. And I believe you guys are familiar with this test. So this one simply means a test. This is actually they call it unit test. Yeah, so unit test. So the next thing is, before we even start anything, make sure you install this Cairo extension. So what you just need to do is to search for Cairo. And then you are going to see a lot of Cairo, though, Cairo syntax. So the one you have to install is this one here, you are seeing here, Cairo 1.0. That's the one you are going to install, right? So take note of that. This one was the old one. That was when they were using Cairo, because Cairo 1.0 is, there's a big difference between the first Cairo and then this present one they are using, which is Cairo 1.0. So make sure it's this, you install this particular one. So once you are done installing it, you are good to go. So back to what we are saying here about variables. So just like how we create new variables in Rust, is the same way we create variables too here. So let's go to our code editor. We'll go to the lib.cairo file, right? And then I'll just take everything off here. So of course, remember in Rust, we say that no matter what you are doing, okay, now in Rust, I don't know if you guys did, there's the library create and there's the main create, something like that. So in this case, we're actually using the library, you can either use the lib or you can use the normal main.rs. So in Cairo, is majorly the lib. So now, of course, you remember in Rust, we always say your entry point to anything you are doing in Rust is always your main function, right? So that's why we're also creating a main function in Cairo, because that's how it works also in Cairo. So we'll create a main function. And how do you create a function in Cairo? It's the same thing like Rust. You have your fn and then followed by the name of the function. So since this one is the main function we are creating, of course, you have your fn, then the name of the function, all right? So now, to create a variable in Cairo is the same thing as Rust. You always use your let keyword followed by the variable you want to create. So in this case, let's say x, right? And then let's give x a value. Let's say x is 34, right? And then, of course, you end with a semicolon, right? So now, just like Rust too, to print in Cairo is for you to use the keyword print ln. I believe we all know this thing. We all know this print ln, and then let's say x. Want to check the value of x. Want to print it out, right? So now I believe everybody knows what we did here. Everybody is aware of what we did here. We created a variable called x, and we gave the variable a value of 34, right? And then here now we are trying to print the variable. Now I know that we all of us here knows the different kinds of variable in Rust. We say we have the unsigned, right? Unsigned integer, and then we have the signed integer. But for Cairo, right? So it's almost the same thing too for Cairo. Yeah, it's just that for Cairo now, I'm not sure if Cairo has a signed integer. That's all those your I30 something. I'm not sure if it has it, right? Okay, it has it too. Wow, I was thinking it doesn't. Okay, sorry. My mind was going to the smart contracts, not the Cairo itself. So everything all the data types that exist in Rust, although not all, there are some that exist in Rust but don't exist in Cairo. But like your signed integer and unsigned integer, the I8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256. Okay, 256 doesn't exist. I size, okay, they don't have I size because Rust has I size actually. So it also exists in this what are they calling it? In this Cairo. Also, if you remember in Rust, even if you don't put the data type, right? There's a way that the Rust itself can infer that data type based on the value you provide for it. So it's also the same thing also in Cairo. That's why you see for this X, we are not providing whether it's I32 or U32, but you see that it's still working out just fine. So now, just like Rust, where to run a program, we run cargo run, right? In Cairo, what we use is that we use Scarb. Is this Scarb run? I'm not sure, right? So Scarb run, is it run Cairo? Cairo run, yeah. I'm not sure though, but let's try it. Let's be sure. Use Scarb execute. Scarb run will be deprecated soon. Why now? Why? Scarb metadata exited with error. Use. Okay. So let's look at Scarb execute and see. Okay. So what are they saying? No such file or directory. But look at it here. Oh, sorry. And nobody talked. So who can tell us what is the problem? Who can tell us why it's showing this error? Where is the problem coming from?
I think you can answer.
Yes. No. You can't. No. Let the student answer. I want to test their debugging skill. So senior devs in the house, Adebaki and co.
So I think you've not entered the directory, that's why. Yeah.
You see, after Johnson go say he no be senior dev. Imagine. I don't catch him. Good. So it's because I was not actually in the repository. All right. So you can see formally this is where I am. So I am not actually inside where this main package is, and that's why you see it's giving out that, what are they calling it? That error. You see, saying Scarb metadata exited with error caused by no such file or directory. So it's trying to tell me that he can't actually dictate a Scarb file. Look at it. You see it. So that's what is happening. So I'll just go back. So now let's do our Scarb execute and see. So you just have to be patient with Scarb. Sometimes it can be slow. So what are they saying? No executable target found for package intro. You can add executable target to the package manifest with the following. So you can see what they are trying to say. Okay, let's use the other one that they are saying. Let's try this thing, Cairo run, and see. So you can see. But if you want to use Scarb execute, what they are just trying to tell you is that you have to add this particular thing to your dependency. So it means this one for Scarb execute to work, you need to add this library to your dependency. So it's just for us to come here, copy it, come to this our scarb.toml. Already we have dependency. Then under it, you just come and paste this. So now I'm sure that if we run it, Scarb execute, it should work now. No executable target found for intro. You can add executable target to the package manifest with the following excerpt executable. Okay. I see. So we have to add executable. Let me add it here. So this executable now. So under it, I don't even know how we are going to even add it to. See, you know what? Let's just leave this one in our next class, or you people can go and do your findings, on it. All right. So, but we'll also look at it in our next class so that we'll not have to waste time. So we just, for now, we'll be using our Scarb Cairo run. That's the command I've known this one for. What is wrong with these people? If you want to disable gas calculation, consider adding the following to your Cairo no windows, sha. Guy, but the good thing about this thing is that the compiler is that it's actually telling us what to do. All right. So let's try it again and see. So I hope it works this time around. so that we'll move fast. Good. So it ran. So if you come to our program, you see that what we are simply doing is to print the value of X that we have here. So just like how you have, like just know that every knowledge in your Rust is also applicable here. So this one too, if we like, okay, let me not go ahead of my, so let's just follow what is here. Yeah, so this is just printing the value. Then so like immutable variables, constant are values that are bound to a name and are not allowed to change. But there are few differences between. So what they are just trying to say here is that the same thing, just like how we have Rust, by default, right? Just like how we have Rust, by default, you also have constant in this Cairo. Now, if you remember in Rust, for you to use the const keyword, the variable have to be in capital letter. So it's the same thing for this one too. So we can have something like let pi, right, be equal to 3.142. Of course, the value of pi. All right. So now let me ask a question. Based on what we did in Rust, why are we getting an error here? So let me try to print this pi. So can somebody help us? Why are we getting an error there? Are we supposed to get an error? If no, then why are we getting an error there? Based on what we talked about in Rust, anytime you want to use the const, sorry, it's let that what I'll be using. So why are we getting this error? Please, oh, anybody? No, our time is going. Ah, this, wait, when I hear me, so this everybody quiet like this. But no be graveyard we dey now. Abi? Abi we dey graveyard? Okay. So we said in Rust, we said anytime you are using the keyword const, always make sure you attach the data type of your variable. For let, the program itself can infer. But for const, I don't know how they decide to do it that way per design. But in const, you have to indicate the data type. So since here we are talking about 3.142, it means this type is not going to be an integer type because integer does not have decimal point. Instead, this type is going to be a floating point type. So we can now put maybe F32 or F64, right? What is this what they do again? Type not found. Hey, are you serious? These people don't have decimal? No, I doubt. I doubt. So let's confirm. Wow, I'm surprised. Oh. Interesting. Cairo does not have
Are
floating
you
point.
F256? I guess.
Hmm? 256. No, I don't think they have floating point. They don't. Cairo doesn't have floating point. So it means we have to just remove this, right? So instead of pi, let me just name it what should I give it? Okay, let's say radius, right? So you can see that even though we change it to normal number, it was still highlighting error. Why? Because of that data type I was talking about. So here we now have to attach. So let's attach maybe U8. I think U8 can carry this value of radius. So you can see that immediately we attach U8, the error disappeared. All right. So here we'll be printing radius instead. Radius. Yeah. So if we run this, Scarb Cairo run, let's see what we have. So you can see value of x 34, value of pi 3. So any question? So you can see that everything is just like Rust, right? And that's why I say I was saying we might move very fast. So everything is more like Rust. You can see this one is just trying to talk about the struct. We talked about struct. We talked about enum. So the behavior of struct and enum and how you handle them is also the same. Yeah. So shadowing. I believe you guys remember shadowing, right? Where if I come here, I can say here, let x be equal to 34. And then here, still using that same x, I can still say here, let x be equal to maybe let's say 4, right? And if I print it, x, you see that I'll still get, when once it gets to here, x will no longer be 34, x will now become 4. All right. So that is shadowing. It also exists in Rust. I think we also talked about it. So it exists also in Cairo. So let me see any other thing. Which side are we safe? Okay, we are talking about variable, right? Is it that we are finished variable? Okay, we are still on variable. So ah, I don't know why they are now touching data types in this variable. So, but me, I don't want to rush. So let's just follow it as it is by order. So now in Cairo, right, just like how we have Frost, is every value in Cairo is of a certain data type, right? And this particular section now, we are going to look at two kinds of data, which is the scalar and the compound. So if you remember too, in Rust, we also have something like this, right? So now, just like Rust, Cairo 2 is statistically typed. So put it at the back of your mind. So let's look at scalar types. So a scalar type represents a single value. Cairo has 3 primary scalar types. So unlike Rust, right? You know, Rust has integers, Rust has Boolean, Rust has what are they calling this one? This one with F, float. It has floating type, right? That's for its normal, the primary types, right? But for Cairo now, Cairo only have felts, integers, and booleans. So always put that at the back of your mind for the scalar types. Yeah. So let's look at what this felt is. So all this one is just a context of calculation and all of that. All right. So they actually call it felt 252 in Cairo. That's how they call it, felt 252. So let's see. They say in the context of Cairo, when we say a field element, we mean an integer in the range this, where x is greater or less than 0 and x is less than p, where p is a very large prime number currently equal to, so this is how large felt is. So when adding, subtracting, or multiplying, if the result falls outside the specific range of the prime number, an overflow or underflow occurs. So I don't know if we talked about overflow or underflow. I think we talked about it, all right, where I said there are numbers that U8 cannot contain. So once you go beyond that number, what is going to happen is that, although normally Ross will throw you an error, but there's a way you can set it that for number that exceed U8, you know, U8 can carry a size of up to 256. So if your number is exceed 256, what is going to happen is that if it's 255, it's going to work, because remember, it's from 0 to 255. Once it gets to 256, if an overflow is going to happen. So what it means is that what you'll be getting as a value, trying to still use U8 for 256, is that you are going to get a 0. And if it's 257, you are going to get 1. 258, you are going to get 2. So that's how the thing will overflow and start again from beginning. If you are using U16 and an overflow happens, the first overflow is going to fall at 0. The second one will fall at 1. So depending on how large your number is, that's how it's going to happen. So I don't know if you guys understand. So it's also the same thing with underflow too, right? So that's what they are actually talking about in essence here. So all these ones is just some sort of explanation, which in this case we don't really need like that. So this is actually a table of all the types that Cairo has. 8-bit, we are already familiar with all of this. 8-bit, 16-bit, 32-bit, 128, and all of that. All right. So so they say each variant has an explicit size. We know about this one. We've talked about it already. Note that for now, the U size type is just an alias for U32. So you see, that's why initially, right, I was trying to use U size, right? But I don't know, it's not recognizing it. Okay, I think this time around it did. Okay, it was I size. So I was trying to tell you guys that there is only unsigned int that Cairo has. It does not have a signed int. So I don't know, maybe because Cairo is tailored for writing smart contracts. So in smart contract, they don't expect money to have a negative value, and they probably expect money to always be positive. Of course, if you don't have money, you don't have money. That's zero. If you have money, you have money, right? But we can actually argue that there's a point where you can actually have a negative money. That's in an event where you are owing money, right? Or you collect a loan, you are a debtor. In that case, you don't actually have money. Instead, you have a negative money. But even if you have a debt, they'll still calculate it as money. You understand? And they'll not calculate it as minus. They'll not say, okay, this guy is having minus 1 million. And they'll still put it as 1 million, but in this case, it will be you are owing 1 million and things like that. Yeah. So let's get back. So yeah, they are trying to tell you that the U size for Cairo is actually U32, same as U32. But for Rust, U size is based on the architecture of your system itself. So you can use U size, I can use U size, but what U size we represent on my system will be different from what U size will represent on your system. It is all based on the system processor, how it's being designed. So that's it. So this one is just creating a function. Of course, just like Rust, for all your function parameter, you have to include a type of what you are bringing into the function. For the return type, if the function is to return anything, you have to put in a type also. So that's what they are trying to say here. Of course, we have not entered function, so we'll not look at it basically. All right. So let's see, what are they saying here? So they say all integer types previously mentioned fit into a felt 252. So remember, they say felt 252 is very large. And because of how large it is, that's why they are not telling you that everything you are seeing here, 8-bit, 16-bit, 32-bit, 64, 128, 256, all can actually fit into a felt. Yeah, so that's what they are just literally saying and all of that. So this one is just a conversion, right? So what are they saying here? So you can write integer literal in any form. So they are trying to tell you that you can write integers in any form you want. You can write it in decimal form. That's in the normal U32, U64. That's what they call the decimal form. You can write it in the hexadecimal form. You can write it in the octal form, and you can write it in the binary. So binary, you can write it in base 2. Octal, you can write it in base 8. Hex, you can write it in base 16. So I'm not sure, but let's try something and see. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure, but let's just give it a try. It did not work. It did not work. There's a way they do it, right? Ebubi Alpha, are you still there? I don't know if you remember. There's a way where you can print this directly. You can just get the hex and just print the X directly. I don't know whether it's only C that does that. I know you can do that in C, but I don't really know I was thinking it's work the same way with C. But anyways, we'll still look at that. So any question at this point? Okay, please go on. Yeah.
You say you want to print X without kind of declaring an extra X. Is it what you mean?
Okay, no. What I actually mean? Sorry. So what I actually mean, oh God. So what I actually mean is that now what I wanted to do is instead of it to just print this number 4 for us, it should print 4 in hexadecimal form.
Okay,
You
okay.
understand?
No, no, I don't.
Yeah. So what I actually mean is that instead of it to just print okay, sorry for the breaking transmission. All right. So what I wanted is I was thinking like there's a way in C, right? That instead of printing the direct decimal, you can just add something and then it's going to give you that same value in hex format. But I don't think it works that way in this one. So I'll just let it be. All right. So numeric operations. So normally in Cairo too, just like how you have numeric operations in Rust, you have addition, you have subtraction, you have multiplication, you have division, right? And you also have remainder. That's using your modulus. You know, modulus, where what it does is that it returns the remainder for you. Yes. So I know that some of you might be curious and say, why are we having something like this? Now, in Cairo, I think it's also similar to Rust. You can convert from one type to another using something like this. So if I come now, right, by default, this X, Cairo might decide to infer an I32 for this X by default. But if I don't want this X to be I32, maybe I want it to be U maybe 128. What I'll just do, I can decide to put an underscore and indicate it as U128. All right. So what will happen is that this X now will now be this variable X is going to take this 34 and is going to infer this U128 on it. So that is one way you can actually convert from one type to another in Cairo. So this is valid. This is actually saying 34, but I want this 34. I don't want it to have a type of maybe U32. I just want it to have a type of U128. So that's what I can see here. It's showing you that integer is having a type of U128. But by the time we remove it now, probably Cairo might decide to give it a U. Okay, you see, it's even giving it a felt. It's not even giving it a U. Look at it. It's giving it a felt. So that is one way you can actually declare a variable and give it the type. So instead of going through this way that you do like this is also valid, right? This is also valid. By the time you check it, you find out that it's U32. But if you don't want to go this way, you can go this way, underscore U32. So you still have the same results. So at this point, is there any question? Okay, nobody. So it also supports Boolean. You know, we say the three primary types are felt, integers, and Boolean. So it also supports Boolean. Yes. So take note of that. I know we all know Boolean. So good. Now, string type. So this is where we might see a little bit of difference between Rust and Cairo. All right. So now, Cairo doesn't have a native type for strings. Are you seeing it? But provide two ways to handle them. So you have short strings, which involves using simple quotes, and you have byte array, which involves using double quotes. So in Cairo, you have two kinds of string type, the one with the single quote or the one with the double quote. Now, the one with the single quote, that's what they call short strings. The reason why they call short string is that it has a limited length, it's limited in length. there's like there are some strings that the length, because of how long maybe that particular string is, you will not be able to use the short string. The Cairo itself will complain. It will let you know. You understand? But for this byte array is actually large. It can carry more strings together. So put that at the back of your mind. So all this one is just ASCII. Does anybody remember ASCII? I think we talked about ASCII in last year, right? Did we? It's looking like we did too. I'm not sure, where we talked about letters. Each letter has a number representation. So this is just what you're actually trying to say. Small letter A has a representation of 61, B has a representation of 62, like that. So you can actually browse it. You can actually browse it and you see everything, right? So where is it? So this is for character. So you can see for character, capital letter A, you have 65. All right. For character small letter A, you have 97. That's the decimal representation. Why the hex representation is 61. And you know what they are showing you here is the hexadecimal representation. So just take note of that. So combining the two, A, B, C now, that's why you see they are now having 61, 62, 63. So this 0x is just to show that it is hexadecimal. So the initial, okay, let me even show you. The initial part of any representation shows you what that thing is. So if you see 0x, 0x simply means hexadecimal. The x means hexa. 0 will always be at the front. O here, after the 0 simply means octal, base 8. B simply means binary. All right, that's base 2. So let's take note of that. All right, always take note of that. So let's go back. Okay, let's go back to where we are now. Where are we? Okay, Cairo uses the felt. Good. So you see, Cairo uses the felt 252 for short strings. As the felt is on 251 bits, a short string is limited to 31 characters. So are you seeing it? So it means that for the single quote, you can only use as much as 31 character. But for the double quote, you can use more than that. So always put it at the back of your mind. Now, let's try it and see. All right. Let's try it and see. So now let's say here, let's say let test equal to, now we'll use the single string. We have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L. It's just for us to keep track. L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, right? Y, Z. Now, of course, we are aware that these characters that we have here are how many? There are 26 characters, right? Good. Now, I will add, space 2 is a character. So it means now we have 27 character. So, and they say the limit of this one is 31. So if we have 27 character now, we need to add how many more character to make it 31? We need to add 4 more character. So let's say A, B, C, D. So now let's add another one, F. Now, do you see what happened? Immediately we added F. You see, it's triggered an error, right? And if we go to the error, let's see what it's going to say. It said the value does not fit within the range of FELT 252. So that's what they are trying to say here, that FELT 252 can only carry 31 characters. So until I remove this, now everything here is 31 characters. That's the maximum your FELT 252 can carry, right? And this is what is known as short string. So put it at the back of your mind. So any question at this point? Okay, somebody raising his hand. All right, so let's go on. Now, byte string, right? Byte array, see me say byte string. So byte array strings, right? So Cairo core library provides a byte array type for handling strings and byte sequences longer than short strings. This type is particularly useful for longer strings or when you need to perform operations on the string data. The byte array in Cairo is implemented as a combination of 2 parts. An array of bytes, 31 words, where each word contains 31 bytes of data. a pending felt 252 word that act as a buffer for bytes that haven't yet filled a complete byte 31 word. So see, all these ones is story. The most important thing is the practical. All right. So, but in essence, what they are trying to explain is that this byte array, how it's being handled, is that you have an array of bytes, 31 words, right? Where each word contains 31 bytes of data. So it's more like array of words. And just like how this thing can carry up to 31 character, that's how this one too. Each of them can carry up to 31. So something like that. So that's why I say, don't worry about this plenty explanation. So this one is not necessary. So now this is this. Now let's say we come back to this, what we have here, and let's say what we need is twice of this. So you know, twice of this will give you 26 plus 26. What are we going to have? If you do 20 plus 26, what are you going to have? You have 52, right? Plus the space in between now is 53. So in that case, 53 is beyond this short string, which you can trigger using your single quote. So for that, I can just, instead of going with my felt 252, because if you check it here now, you see the data type is felt 252. I can just upgrade it to a byte array. And how do I upgrade it to a byte array? By using double quotes, right? What is this one do? So you see what it's telling me? Type annotation needed, failed to infer. So it doesn't know how to infer the byte array. So I think the byte array we need I don't think I think we need to import it. Yeah, I think we need to import it. So let me see what they have here. Okay, let's go back. Let's put the data type and see byte array. Okay, I don't think we need to import it. But then, of course, from this error, right? We've already known what this error means. Type annotation needed. So it's trying to tell you that the compiler cannot automatically infer what this type is. So in that case, you have to come and now tell it that, okay, now byte array now I want. So in this case, you can see what has happened. Everything is now cleared, right? So here too, you can see the structure of this. This is what they are trying to explain, that the implementation of byte array is you have an array of bytes 31, then you have a pending word of felt 252 waiting, and then pending word length. So see, this one maybe in another day we'll feel settle down, look the inner workings of that one. But for now, make a no load in our head too much. So this is how you handle when you have a very lengthy string. Yeah, so this one is going to be long string actually. Yeah. So any question? Hope I'm not too fast. So who remember tuple? I believe we all remember tuple. I know there's no way somebody will tell me that they have forgotten tuple. Yeah. So we also have tuple. Of course, now we have entered compound types. We have finished simple type. Simple type is just your felt 252. Your hope you people know that byte array. Well, although you can, some people can decide to put byte array under simple actually. So just remember that your simple types are your felt 252, your boolean, and your integers. In particularly your unsigned integers. Probably with time, Cairo might implement signed integers, but for now, unsigned integers. All right. So tuple you have tuple is like a type that can actually accept different types. It's a data structure that can accept different types. That's why you see here we are having U32, U64, and a boolean. All right. So if you want to create a tuple, just like how you do for your normal Rust, it's the same thing. So we can say let tuple be equal to, right? Then you bring this one, we can say maybe 32, right? We can say we can create a felt, let's say Cairo, right? We can create a byte array, let's say Rust is the boss, And then let's add boolean, let's say false. So now, why is this one showing us error? Let's check, let's confirm. So type annotation needed. So it means that any place you are trying or any place you are planning to use a byte array type, you have to indicate it, or else the compiler won't be able to infer. So that is what is just, if not for this one, right? Let's say we change it back to file 252. We'll not need to come here and now start putting like now inferring, telling you that okay, the first one is U32, the second one is felt 252, right? The third one is what is I think another felt, Abby. Yeah, another felt, and then the last one is boolean. We'll not need to come and do this at all. We won't. Yes, but if we want to use a byte array now, let's say we want to use a byte array, we have to come here and do all of this and then put byte array, so that it's going to know that okay, this type is actually a byte array type. So any question on tuple? Hmm? But now they understand this thing, so this everybody is just quiet. But when I talk on true, now they understand this thing. Now they make me fear. Ha.
But I
My
don't understand
problem,
them.
who
I'm
am I
thinking
to
as
talk?
well.
Okay. Tall. Now do you okay? I don't. Say now I don't remember. Say we do Rust, Abi. So no wahala. Thank God everybody they understand. It means when they grind, I beg. Which machine they use grind? Man, no. Me my guy here. It will be buying for me. Ma fi they grind like una. Una know na as upcoming now. I need a grind where ma fi reach the level of senior devs. Okay.
This whining get where you thought you. Allah, kai.
It is well, oh. It is well. So technically, this is
We
it.
won't be like you, sir. We won't
Eh,
be like you.
I mean, I won't be like una. So I will go take one now. So always remember, right?
So
One thing.
I think how we go take do am be say we go first start from devices. You go give me your Mac, take my Dell, my Ubuntu, where they hang.
Yeah, if I give you my Dell, you go just dey cry every day. Now with your hand, you go run, come collect back your system. Say, oh guy, take your forget all these one way they see icon wait to say na Mac. Oh. Some Mac they na ma like see no day. And the type what they use, oh, no reason now. Okay. So now, yes, let me bring one thing to your attention, just in case. You might see them, you like for instance, look at what we have here. You can see that we are not having a string here. What we are having is actually two. But you can see that the type they are annotating here is a felt 252. So always remember that in Cairo, every type fits into a felt 252, except a byte array. In fact, even a byte array is a kind of felt 252. It's just like a byte array is like an array of felt 252. That's why if you come here, right, this byte array, if you look at the structure here, you see that we have array of bytes 31, and then the same inside of this byte array, inside of it we have array, inside of it we have pending words of 252. So even the byte array is expecting or contains a felt 252. So always put it at the back of your mind, because this one now, this 32 that we are saying is U32. If we come now and say we want it to be of type felt 252, it's still going to be valid. So that is how Cairo is being designed. So this is just in case. All right. So So take note of that. So unit type, I think, I don't know if we treated this in Rust, but any type that returns an empty tuple is referred to as a unit type. You understand? Is referred to as a unit type. So if we have a struct, an empty struct, it will be referred to as what? A unit struct. So I can have a struct like this. I know that probably you people might not be familiar with it, but in some code base, you might come across something like this. Let's say maybe you see struct, let's say life, right? This one no work. Ha. Hey, make us waiting they complain. No. Missing token. Okay. So you can have a struct like this, although in this thing, what are they calling it? In Rust, you can have a struct like this, an empty struct that does not have any properties, right? So in that case now, it's going to be referred to as an empty struct, but I don't know why Cairo now is not allowing me. So it's actually called an empty struct. So take note of that. Whereas anything you see that is returning an empty tuple, let's say you see something like let x, right, equal to like this. This is actually called a unit type. I seen it. It's called a unit type. So it's valid. That's why you see here, it's not throwing complaint. The only complaint is giving us here is that it's not used. It's an unused variable, but it's not complaining. That's why that this is a valid type in Cairo. It's also a valid type in Rust. So just in case you jam it in Rust, good. So another type we have is the fixed size array type. Now, if you remember in Rust, you know we have two types that are similar. We have the normal array, and then we have the vector. So also in Cairo, we also have the normal array, and we also have a kind of array that is called vector, although that vector is not in the pure Cairo itself. It's when we go to the smart contract aspect. That's when you see the use case of that one. They call it okay, yeah, it's when we get there, that's when you see. But what we have by default is just your array. And you know your array, if you remember, just like we did in Rust, you have to give the size of the array, right? The array is not growable. It's not growable. So you have to like indicate the size. So here now, of course, we did this in Rust, where the first one is the type, then your semicolon, then the next is the number of elements that your array will contain. Here is 5. Why? Because the number of elements in these arrays are 5. Whereas this first one is like the type. You understand? So, and that does not mean you must annotate it. If you don't annotate it, Cairo can automatically annotate it for you. So you can just decide to come and just create your array. You can decide to say, let's say even numbers equal to 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. You don't need to annotate it. Automatically, Cairo will do that for you. So you can see here, yes, it has annotated it as felt for the numbers, and it has also given the number, the length of the array, which of course the array contains 5 elements. That's why you are seeing 5 here. So you only annotate it in a situation where, let's say maybe what you really want to use, you don't want to use felt. What you want to use is a U type, let's say U8 type. In that case, you have to annotate it. So that's when we now have something like this, U8, and then of course the size of the array. So in this case, if you check, you find out that it's going to take on the U8 type. So always take note of that. Yeah, and you can also print it. I know we have not been printing here, right? So you can also print it if you want, even number. Then okay. So now, senior devs, who can tell us why do we have this error? Why are we having this error? Remember in Rust, the thing used to do like this too, where you want to print like an array, you want to print a struct, to now show you one thing, to show you this kind of error. So who can help us out in this case?
Okay, so I think since you are printing an array, I'm supposed to
Yeah.
put that colon question mark or colon hashtag.
Okay. I love that. Good. So that is because by default, just like I said, Cairo as a whole is a branch off of Rust. You understand? So the same thing, like up to 90% of what is applicable in Rust is also applicable in Cairo. It's just that they removed some things to make it specifically useful for Starknet ecosystem. All right. So what is happening here is because by default, things like compound types, by default, they don't know how to print struct to arrays. So if you are printing them now, you have to implement the debug mode, which is either your column question mark or column hash in case you want to beautify it. Okay, it's as if Cairo doesn't have column hash. Voila. Talk. So your column and your question mark. So if we run our command now, it's supposed to print this array for us. So you can see it's printing our array for us. So any question? Okay, no question. So we also did this, if you remember, right? Where we say you can also, let's say in a situation where you want to initialize an array, but you want all the elements inside that array to be the same thing. So instead of you coming now, let's say here now, instead of you coming, let's say everything, all the elements here are supposed to be 1, 1, 1, 1. Maybe all the people, maybe each of these represents points of people, and all the people you want them to start with point 1. So instead of taking out time and the people, let's say they are 20, instead of doing this 20 times, you can just decide to, what do we want? We want 1. For how many people? For 20 people. I don't know if you understand. Why is this thing giving us error? You understand? So you can see what this one is trying to tell us here. It's saying threat has no implementation in context. This, right? So even after using this, you can see it's still telling us the same thing. So it means that we have to convert this type to to integer instead of felt. So what we just need to do is to annotate it. So of course, let's make it U16, right? And then how many are they? They are 20. So let's see what this one is saying. Thread has no implementation in context. I think they worry these people. We the same way we do print, Nana. Cairo. Cairo is a very funny language, though. So let's execute and see what the error that is going to tell us. So it's still telling us that you can't format it. Oh, Allah. Let's just print one element from it then. Yeah. So let's print the first element. So if I want to print the first element, what am I going to use? Anybody? Okay. So what is this one saying? Candidate, inference field, threats, no implementation. What is wrong with Cairo today? Funny enough, if we decide to do it manually, it's going to work. That's just the funniest thing. If we do it manually, it's going to work. It's just this one. I don't know why it's misbehaving. If we decide to say, okay, let's try this way and see, right? So what do you have? Could not be indexed. Candidate corps, what? Inference has no implementation. Two, what do they want us to dot into? I'm not sure, though. See, we'll come back to this thing. I don't know what's wrong with this. So that's why you have to be careful if you are dealing with Cairo, because I don't know, for just something, sometimes you just be seeing some weird stuffs that you don't understand. So he's talking about inference, like What do you mean? I think this should work. Yeah, but you see the problem. So, anyways, let's continue. So okay, what do we have here? So that's it. If you want to do it like a repeated element, we did that too in Rust. All right. So assessing element of a fixed array. So I don't know. Who remember the structuring? I think we did the structuring in Rust, right? Did
Yes,
we?
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So
You did.
that's one way we did. Okay, so that's one way you can actually assess element of an array by destructuring. I'm just seeing something here now. So for us to be, I think that's why we are not able to assess the index of the array, is because we are not using this dot span method, right? So if we come back to what we had here, let me undo. So to access this, I think we have to come and add dot span to this. These are no still work. How they take do my array? Okay, it has to be, you have to create another variable. So we can say let's access, because that's what we grant us access. So even number dot span. Sorry, let me remove it from here. Yeah, so now we just have to call this access for we to be able to access it using index. Sorry, this is double C, not single C. So I think now we should be able to access it. So in fact, we can check, okay, let's say first number, right? First. So we can, so let's see what we have here. Okay, so our first element here, of course, all of them will be one, because here we are saying it should initialize all the array, it should initialize one for 20 elements. So, and the first element is at index 0. So the final element will definitely be at index 19, right? So if we print 19, we'll still get the same thing. You can say the 19th. 19th. So once we run this, so you can see it's still 1 because we initialize all the 20 elements to be 1 based on what we have here. So always like take note of this span. So you can see how the dynamics for languages sometimes can change and all of that. So type conversion. Now I know somebody might ask that. I think we talked about type conversion in Rust, right? Where you have something like as, you can have something like this, right? Maybe we'll have, you can say let's say you can say let x. Maybe this one now is let's say u8, right? And let's say this u8 is 4, and then you say let y. So this y now we can give it maybe u32, right? And we'll say this u32 is like 12, something like this. Now normally if like let result, if I want to multiply these two together, x multiplied by y, right? It's not going to work out. Why is it not going to work out? Because these two are of different data type, right? So you always have an issue. That's why I see this y is showing error, right? Now, if you look at this error now, look at what it's telling you. Unexpected argument type, expected 8, found U32. Now, why is it telling you that it's expecting 8? It's because the first one here is of type 8. So type 8 is also expecting that if you are multiplying anything by this first one, it should also be of type 8. Do you get? If, let's say I brought y first before x, it's x that is going to complain of. Look at unexpected argument type, expected U32. It will check, why is U32? Why is it that you are now trying to multiply another number to y that is not of the same type with y? So that is why you are getting this error. So with Ross now, we can easily convert X by saying, we can say X as U32. You know, this one will work in Rust. It works when you use the keyword as. But in this case now, you see it's throwing us error. So another way we can convert in this case is by using, in this case, I don't know if it will work, but let's try it. Okay, this one did not work. Let's see dot into. Good. So in Cairo, you simply make use of, although it also work in Rust too, and this dot into method. So keep it at the back of your mind. So this dot into, what is going to do is that it's going to force X to conform to Y. So if you check now, you find out that Y is U32, X by default is U8. But this into now, we force it to now conform to this type. That's why you see it's not giving us any error here. And if we print our result, you see that X is able to multiply Y, right? So let's see results. Then we have results. So let's see cargo base. Sorry. Don't worry, if you start coding in Cairo, you'll be shocked. There are sometimes that you want to run Scarb, you want to run cargo. So you can see it successfully multiplied it. It's giving us the result as 48. So that is how you can actually convert from one type into another type. So take note of that using the into. There's also try into. Now, that try into is in situation where you are not sure if the number can actually be contained inside of what you are converting it to. Okay, let's say for instance, this X now is 4, right? This U32. Okay, we know that by default, U8, the maximum U8 can take as number is 255. Right? And let's say I now have another number here. Let's say let Z. And this Z is of U32, right? And this Z is, let's say, 344. Now, by default, you know that 344 is beyond what U8 can carry. You get? And let's want to now convert Z to be into U8. Now, I can say, let's convert be equal to, this convert now, I'll give it of type U8 and equal to, I'll now say Z, right? You can see that Z is already giving us error. Let's see why. Unexpected argument type, expected 8, found 32. That's okay. Now I want to convert it to the U8. So I want to use the into. Now you can see that I'm using into. So let's see what we have here. Has no implementation in context, U38. What are these people saying? Convert the input types. So let's see. Thread has no implementation in context. Call threads into call integer U32, U8. Convert the input type into output type. So who can actually tell us what they are trying to say here? So look at the example they gave. You can see that you can actually convert from lower to upper. A is of U8, B is of U16. So they are now converting the type of A into type B because they know that no matter how large A is, B will be able to contain it. So in this case now, let's say you want to convert from higher to lower. You know, you can always convert from lower to higher. You know that higher will be able to contain it. But now is a risk when you want to now convert from lower, from a higher number to a lower number. So imagine me converting a U32 type to a U8 type. There's possibility that the number that U32 is carrying might be bigger than what U8 can carry. So that's why in that case, what you now use is the second type of into, which is called try into. Right? So that's why the fact I don't know why this one is still throwing error. It's not supposed to throw error per se. I don't know why it's throwing error. These people. Maybe they want me to use a number. So let me use maybe a number. Let's say 790. Right? Oh, why are you throwing me a number? Okay. I know why it's giving us issues. As you can see here, what is returning is actually returning. I believe we did options where it returns either a number or none. All right. So it's returning an option. So because of this now, we have to make this one to be an option for it to work. It's actually returning an option. So now what they are trying to tell you is that this try into what is going to do, it will check. Is it possible to convert 790 to a U8 type? If it's possible, it will return the answer for you. If it's not possible, what it's going to do is that it's going to return a none for you. So in this case, let's print. So who can help us? Now, in this case, do you think we are going to get an answer? Do you think we are going to get an answer, a value, or we are going to get none? So what are we going to get in this case? Somebody should please now be fast. What are we going to get in this place? What do you think we are going to get here based on what we are trying to do? We can even change this thing to Z. Yeah, can change it to Z. That is going to take the value
Get
here.
an answer.
We'll get an answer, okay? So let's
Sum.
run our program first. Okay. So did we get an answer? So now, if you look at what we are trying to do, we are saying convert Z into a U8 type for us. So it's more like we are trying to convert a higher number. We are trying to force it into a smaller number. So in that case now, we must use this try into. Why must we use try into? We must use try into because, Oga, you are carrying trailer and you want to put it inside Hilux. Like, is it possible? You understand? But we are still saying, well, you don't know. The trailer might be a toy trailer. So, of course, if it's a toy trailer, Hilux will carry it. What is toy trailer? Hilux can carry plenty toy trailers. So, and again, okay, if it's a real trailer, of course, we are just deceiving ourselves. There's no way Hilux can carry a big trailer. Like, it's not even possible. Right? So, that's why you see, we have to now, we are not using this into. Instead, what we are using is try into. We are saying, okay, let's just try it. It might work. It might not work. You understand? So in an event where the number, this one, where the number of Z does not exceed what U8 can carry, it's going to work. It will return a value for us. But in a situation where the number that this Z is carrying exceed what U8 can carry, of course, what is going to return to us is none. So using the try into, it will always return an option. And for option, we know that it's either you have none or you have the value. So in this case, Z is 344. Of course, 344 is more than what U8 can carry because the maximum that U8 can carry is 255. So that's why doing this, what we are getting is none. But if we eventually change this to 200, of course, despite the fact that this U32, 200 is within what U8 can carry. So by the time we run this code now, right? You see that it will give us an answer, a value, which is what? Of course, it's going to be wrapped in sum because that's how options work. It returns either sum or value or none. So, but you can see it gave us the value, which is 200. Why for the other one is that try now, that into dot into is when you are now converting a smaller type into higher type because you are sure that no matter what, a higher type will always have space for a smaller type. So in that case, you don't really need to use your try into. Just use your into, and that one it will not return an option for you. It will return a straight answer for you. So let's say we are trying to take this one now. We are trying to take it to, let's say, U128, right? In that case, if you even use try into, it will throw an error. So what you just need to is just to use your into, because you know that no matter how big U32 is, U128 will always be able to contain it. So any question? So that is what this one is all about. Your into and then your try into. So that's why you see here they're actually using unwrap. Who knows? Who remember unwrap? I think we talked about unwrap, where you can easily get the value directly. Whereas if there's an error or if it's none, your program is going to panic. So take note of that. So any question? Hmm? Any question? All right, no question. So let's proceed, right? So functions. So just like how you have, I talked about the main function already, where Rust, we say you always need an entry point, and your main function is always the entry point. That's your execution point of execution. So the same thing with Cairo too. You always need your main function, then any other function too. So it's the same way. Look at it. Fn for us too is Fn. The name of your function for us too, the same thing. So let's see. Function parameters to the same thing. For us to remember, you always include the type of your parameters. If you just put your parameters just normal, it will not work. You have to include the type of your parameter too as well. So let's see anything here. So let's see. So named parameter. This one is normal now. Like there's nothing special here actually. This is the same thing as calling a function with a variable. So there's no really anything special here, actually. So statement and expression. So hope we know the difference in statement and expression. Hmm? Let me even ask. Senior devs in the house.
One ends with a semicolon, right?
Okay. Yeah. Okay, beautiful. So actually, the major difference between them is here. Is a statement and instructions that perform some action and do not return value. So anything that does not return value is a statement. Anything that returns a value for you, right, is actually an expression. So take note of it. You understand? In case, because sometimes it could be confusing, you can remember it as, make I go express myself. I go express myself. So it means you are giving out. There's something you want to let out. You understand? So always put at the back of your mind statement, expressions. One return, one does not return. So now, this one now, if you look at what this one is doing, this one is not returning anything. This is simply telling you that y is equal to 6, and that's all. But this one, what this one is doing is that what is doing is that it's telling you let y equal to 6. So this is an expression that will now make return 6. So by returning 6, your x now will now be 6. So this is actually an expression. So if you do something like thank God that we have done if statement already. So doing it here will not be a big issue. So let's say you say let x, right? Let x equal to maybe let's say 54. And then you now come back and say if x is equal to maybe 54, you should now maybe return or print let's say 54, right? And then else print uh, not 54, right? So something like this now, what are we going to call this? Are we calling it a statement or are we calling it an expression? I don't understand. Now graveyard today. I've been 2 minutes silent. They do.
I think
Is it what?
is a expression.
Good, good. This is actually an expression. All right. And funny enough, funny enough, we can do it. We can even do it this way, right? Return, let's say 100. Let's say anybody that scored to 54, you want it to return 100. Else, it should return 0, right? So, okay, instead of this, let's say that is greater than, right, or equal to. So we can decide to say let result equal to, right? And then what are we having here? Thread has no implementation in context. Let me use u. Let me give it the data type of u32. So I just want to confirm something. So I don't know why felt is refusing to work actually. Yeah. So that's why I actually made it to be u32. So now in this case, in that case, in the first instance, I know some of you might not be sure of what is this thing returning. But in this case, what is actually happening here? It will check if x is greater than or equal to 54. If it is, it will return 100. You hope you guys remember explicit and implicit return. One where you don't use your return keyword and another where you use your return keyword. So this is actually an implicit return. So now the result is going to be 100. If x is not up to 54, the result is going to be 0. So it will return 100 and then store it inside this result. While here it will return 0 and store it inside the result. So here now if we print this, what are they calling it? Result. Let's see, what are we going to have? Okay, 100. So why? Because of course it's up to. But let's say we made this one 53. Of course, 53 will not be up to. So if we run it, that's what we're going to have. 0. So that's the difference between expression and statement. So always put it at the back of your mind. So what do we have here also? All these ones, Sabiam. Okay, see the example of what I did. So you can see it here. You can see it here. So always take note of this. Always take, you see this one, they did not even use if. Me, I used if, but this one they did not use if. Why? Because this one, what is going to happen is that x here will be 3. Here now you're adding 1 to that same x. So x here now will be 4, and it's going to be returned into y. So y now will now have the value of 4. So this is an expression. So take note of that. Function with return. We know this one already in Rust is the same thing. A function that returns a value, right? So let's say we have okay, our main function, of course. Baba. Then we have another. Let's say this function adds 2 numbers together, right? Let's say x u8 and then y2 u8, right? So we can give it a return type. Let's say we want the function to also return u8, right? And then we'll now say x plus y, of course, using implicit return. So here we can just come and then we'll say let x, y be equal to, let's say, 45 and 72, right? And then we'll just call our add function. So we'll say let answer be equal to add, and then we'll pass in our x and y, right? And then here we'll just print our answer. So answer. So what do we have for our answer? We have answer, right? So now let's see. So we do cargo Scarb Cairo run. So you can see it's the same syntax, everything the same way you do in Rust is the same way you do here too. So I don't think we need to stay much on it. So const function. So this one, right? Is also there in, is also available actually. It's also available in, what are they calling it? In Rust, right? So this one is just simply how you can actually run an expression and then save the result inside of a constant value. So that's just what they are doing basically here. It's really nothing special. You understand? It's really nothing special. So for them to say const function, there's nothing like const function. Don't mind them. Nothing like const function there. So what they just did is just an expression which now results to a value that will now be stored inside the const value that was declared. Yeah. Okay. So any question at this point? Comments. We don't even need to do anything. Comments. So this one, I believe that we all know what comments are. So now something like this in Cairo is called documentation. Always take note of that. It's called documentation, right? Now, it's just that in this code editor now, there's no way we are going to view it. But let me show you something so that you understand what I'm saying. Docs.rs, right? So let's see for Bitcoin. So now, if you look at this, right? Okay, let's go to this. Let's just look at address. Now, what you have here is all inside the code. This one is from the code base itself. This everything you are seeing here, Bitcoin addresses, support for ordinary, blah, example, is all inside the Bitcoin code base. Now I know somebody will ask, how they know? Say now inside the day. Where now? More check. Let's check. So good. Share you see source. So let me enter source. Now, are you seeing what is happening here? Sorry. Let me go there again. Now you see address data. What did you see on top of address data? You see they are using this 3/, 3/, 3/. So you see the data encoded by an address. This is the data used to encumber an output that pays. You see they worry this thing. Good. That pays to the address. That is, it is the address, right? Excluding this. And then for each of these things, you can see that they are telling you what they are using this 3/. Now, if we go back, right, you can see this code. You can see that writing. Did you see that writing that was on top? The data encoded by an address. This is the data used to encode. So everything you are seeing here is inside the code base itself. So that is one beauty of Rust, and also that's one beauty of Cairo. Instead of you writing your program first and then going to write documentation separate, you can write your documentation inside your program. So for this one and the documentation, we can decide to say add function, and we can decide to say add function, and then we'll now say this function adds two numbers or integers. Yeah, integers. So, and we can decide to come here and say returns sum implicitly. So what I've done here is I've successfully documented this function. So that is what I've done here. So always put it at the back of your mind. Yeah. So this is how you document. So for code now, to show code example, you always use these 3 ticks. I don't know if some of you are used to writing README files. You understand that these your 3 ticks makes beautify that particular code, right? So take note of it. Probably you want to show an example. So let's say for this my function now, I want to add an example to it, right? I can decide to say I'll put so here I will now say how do I use this thing? I say add, and then or here I'll come here and say let x u8 equal to 3, let y u8 equal to 4, and then here I can now say, okay, let me give space. can I say add x, y, right? Of course, let's say let results equal to xy. So what I have done here is to successfully add an example of how this function can be used in the documentation. So imagine you having the power to document your code, and then once I'm done, I can actually publish this as a document. I don't know whether Scarb has their own, right? I think they should have. Yeah, scarb.xyz, if I'm not mistaken. God, I hope this is correct. I know that for Rust is I'm coming. I don't know their own though. Let me confirm. Scarb docs. I know that for Rust, anything you want to find in Rust, just go to docs.rs, right? You see all the libraries, any library you can think of that is in Rust. Just search here. So if let's say now I want to make use of Starknet, and I want to check all the libraries of Starknet on, I can just type Starknet. So you can see all of them. You can see all the Starknet libraries in Rust. So once I pick anyone, you can see. So that is, I don't know. I think Scarb should have. It's just that I think Scarb should have, if I'm not mistaken. They don't have, unfortunately. Right. It is well. Oh. Chai. I don't think they have. Okay, so back to business actually. Where we did. So that's how comment are actually. So you can see module documentation. So this to document an item, a single item. This to document a module itself. So you can see the difference. For normal item, you only have this 3/. For module, you have this. What are they calling itself? Been apostrophe. I've been waiting the color. And that's how you document a module. So of course, I don't know. I think we did module now in Rust, and where you declare using your mode. So any question? So till we get here, safe. Where we did control flow. Okay, this is where we are. Yeah. So any question? Okay. All right. So this control flow too, there's no difference from that of Rust. Look at your if. In Rust, you have if. The same thing here, right? You have your if else. The same thing here too. You have your else. So you can see else if. That's for multiple. So you also have if in a let condition. So actually the same thing. Loops too. You remember loops in Rust? The same thing. You can see loop. So you can see your loop. So you see there's also while loop, just like Rust too. And there's also for loop, just like Rust. So it's technically the same thing. Yeah. So I don't think I need to say anything on that again. Yeah. So let's go to the next one. Common collections. So in Rust, right, the two collections we have in Cairo is basically arrays and dictionaries. All right. So let's look at what they are. So already we know what array is. We talked about arrays in Rust. So it's the same way here too. It's just that is the difference in creating them. So in Cairo now, to create an array, you have to use this one, array threat, and then new. Unlike in Rust, you just use array new. You understand? Or you just use your, I think even this one has that one. Can you? I think you can. Let me confirm, please. Confirm. Yeah, yeah, exactly. You can. So remember, Rust too, you can create an array using this direct syntax, right? And you can also use your normal array new. So for Cairo is either you use your array new to create an empty array, and then you now go ahead and append, of course, to add any item to the array, you append the item and append all the elements or items you want the array to contain, or you just go with this, the array macro. All right, so we have done this, so I'm not doing it. And we are, so enum, we have done enum in Rust. So we'll not talk about it here. Yeah, we have done enum. So what happened here actually here is that they're actually appending this data inside of the array, and that's what they are doing. They are appending it. So, and why is everything entering inside the array? It's simply because the array is of the enum type. So that's I can see the enum itself, it holds an integer, it holds a felt, and it's holding a tuple. So that's why, irrespective of whether they are pushing integer or they are pushing felt or they are pushing tuple, the array will collect it. Why? Because everything is of the same type in the array, which is what? Data. So span, we have already talked about span. That for you to access the index of an array, first of all, you need to call this something of that nature. So I don't know, Cairo. You just make it overcomplicated. Just allow me to access. You say I span. So the next one, dictionaries. So you remember dictionaries now in Rust. I think we did dictionaries in Rust. So Cairo 2 has a dictionary, and for Cairo they call it felt 252 dict. That's what they call it. So let me see. Is there anything special again apart from that? So it's technically the same thing with Rust, where you insert, you pass in a key, right, and a value of that key. The only difference between Rust and Cairo is that Cairo, for felt 252 dictionary, the key must always be a felt. That is just the downside. For Rust, the key can be anything. You understand? So take note of that. Let me see. So that's why I see all through what they have been using as key is felt. That's the one with a single quote. So always put it at the back of your mind. So if you are working with felt 252 dict data structure, no matter how you are manipulating it, always know that your key will always be felt 252. It's only your value that can be anything. Your value can be a boolean, it can be a felt, it can even be an array. But that key gong 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 gong, it has to be a felt 252. So that's just one downside to it, because there are some things that you want to work on. You have to do a like multiple manipulations for you to really get what you want. So let me see any other thing. Dictionary destruction. So it's not necessary. What dictionary? 252 dates. So entry, I think we talked about entry, right? In Rust, did we talk about entry? Where once in the dictionary, if the element is already existing, it's not going to do anything. But if the key has a value, it will just leave it. But if the key does not have a value, it will now update the value that you pass into the entry. So that's just entry, what entry does. So is there any other thing? I don't think there's any other thing again. All these ones is story. So let me see. Do we have anything? In Rust, at least you know how to get your this thing, your value. Use the dot get method and all of that. So so what do we have? Using arrays inside dictionary. This one too. It's not Don't really need it. So what X? What else? What else? So I think that's all. Yeah. So all these ones you are seeing is when you want to customize the dictionary to suit your own purpose. So that's just what all these ones are for. So for now we don't really need it. So there's no point. So is there any other thing? So I think that's all for dictionary. So at least when next we meet, which is tomorrow, we'll just start from this ownership. So this ownership too is actually similar to that of Ross. You know, I told you guys now that Cairo is just built with Ross. You can see a variable goes out of scope, a struct is destroyed. Destruction can happen in several ways. So ownership type system. You understand? uh So as value itself is always immutable unless you indicate there is mute. So all this is something that we have done in Ross, right? But we'll dwell on it tomorrow. So we'll continue from here tomorrow. Yeah. So understanding ownership. So at least tomorrow we should be able to go through this, right? And then at least we'll be able to write a simple contract, hopefully. Yeah. Okay. So any question? Like hope I did not rush to why I was just going is because most of I told you guys already now. You guys have done Rust. And so most of what is there is actually Rust, Rust, Rust. So any questions? So you see, you guys should be happy that you learned Rust. They can see it's just like you use one stone to key two bed. I mean a two bed key one stone. Because these days I hear say two bed fit key one stone. Right? Okay, so any question before we finally call it a day? I mean a night. Okay, night. I know say Johnson now. He don't they say more do close so that I go fit call him babe. He don't miss him babe. You know if you wait to hear voice.
I'm a pastor, new. I'm a pastor. People
Pastor
of
they
God,
marry.
praise the Lord.
Even me where they I just want finish so that man call my babe, man tell her good night. You the fun pastor. Oshe pastor.
Ah,
She no go marry.
I think say devs no they get babe now. Now why we too no get boss? Will they look up to you? Ah, is this
No
the
reason
way?
now. No reason now. Any dev with tell say no get babe na lie. You know what make you ask am too many questions ni. Eh? Why you think say dev they marry? Na heaven na then they push the wife come. God go just say my son, you have been coding in Rust for 3 years. Make I just give you this as bonus. Don't mind those devs, on so they do. All right. So we'll meet tomorrow. Hopefully, we'll finish up tomorrow and then we'll write at least a simple contract in Cairo, see how it works. I'll try my best to explain as much as I can. Then I don't know how Saturday is going to be like for your dev hours. Then we might look at some maybe a little bit advance of the smart contract part of Cairo. So that after the whole thing, at least you guys should be able to build on Cairo. Yeah. So so that's it. That's it. More.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gideon. Thank you. Wonderful session.
I thank you, boss.
Can you
See
hear
them,
me?
my yes,
Thank
yes, yes. The way my God they thank me like this, I go sleep well this night too.
you're not serious. So now, guys, so Mr. Gideon will be coming in again tomorrow for the final class of the cardio boot camp. You guys get right? So please try to form a team for your project or a slow project if you wish. Then remember, no project, no certificate, and there'll be a Twitter space on Friday. So please let us all endeavor to join because more insight about the project will be shared on that Twitter space on Friday. Thank you all. That'll be off my own end. Bye for now.
So bye everybody. Have a restful night.